Oh Lord, two busy women trying to make it happen.
I know.
Lord, okay. So I have so many questions to ask because this is exciting stuff. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody back to another episode of Mocha Speaks podcast. My goal is to increase awareness, to talk about political issues and social issues that is happening in our local community and throughout Georgia. But I had to cover the Athens mayoral race. This is some exciting news, y'all. We have three candidates that I believe that have announced. Right?
I think so.
Okay. So far I have interviewed Tim Denson. Now I'm here with Lakiesha Gantt. Coming up next is Dexter Fisher. But how are you doing today?
I'm good. I am a little tired, but I'm good. I'm good. I had a relatively peaceful day, so that how my day starts really can impact like how my day goes into the evening.
Flows through the rest of the day.
Yeah, so I'm good.
Oh, so today was a busy day. This is the end of the day interview. Okay, so we did probably 8-hour shifts and all of that good stuff, worked and took care of our families, and now we're sitting down and having a conversation. So it's interesting because I don't think anybody expected you to jump in. There was buzz sometime or another that is she going to run for office or something? So what made you decide to run for mayor?
Gosh, that's a loaded answer. And so I know we don't have the time to cover all of it. Mm-hmm. But a few things. One is I have learned that Athens does not really suffer from lack of ideas or us being able to identify problems. Mm-hmm. And that is actually sometimes one of my areas of strength. I'm trained to critique problems and things of that nature. But I think the work and the challenge is moving towards solutions, small step by small step. And so I think I was at a place where, I've been doing the things that I love. My work with the school board was some of the most challenging work I'd done, among probably the top 5 or 10 things that I'd done as far as that challenged my capacity, my emotional capacity, but also my leadership capacity that I did not quite know that I had. And my work with kids before then and systems have always sort of positioned me to be able to impact parts of systems. And it just sort of matched this desire for the community that I live in to be better and to live a life that impacts other people in a positive way and through systems. And so I've had an opportunity to sort of sit in that seat, and even my work in schools, years before that, while I've always had a passion to work with individuals, and I sort of developed this area of expertise, not intentionally, working with kids and teenagers and families and things of that nature. It became very clear, and even more so when you're actually doing the work, that children, teenagers, and parents and schools are a microcosm of the community.
Yeah.
And so the issues that we see in our community, really they transfer into schools, and it's difficult to have full functioning schools and systems that are performing at their best if they're in a community, if these organizations are in a community that is not functioning at its best. And so it became clear that the next step for me would be to work in a more systemic way beyond schools. And in some ways, I'd already been doing that work through advocacy oftentimes behind closed doors, very often not public, but working, listening to individuals, helping them figure out like the next step. What is it that they should be asking for? What can they ask for? What part of the system may push back on what they're asking for? And so it became like a natural next step, right? If this has been the work with schools, and we have a ways to go with schools, but I'm very proud of the work that we've done as a governing body. Then it just became clear that the things that we expect, we have to expect those things on a larger scale in our community. Can't just be concerned about the child who comes to school, mm-hmm. who is hungry or misbehaving. If they are having to live in a home where parents are having to work 3 and 4 jobs, and they're uncertain if they're going to be able to afford their rent, and they're working, on a job that does not provide any type of educational leave or support for them, and they're being paid below a living wage. I mean, that's just sort of a recipe for disaster. And it sets children up and families. And communities mm-hmm. Up for sort of like an uphill battle. Mm-hmm. And so it was like the next natural step for me.
So tell everyone, maybe we should have started off with telling folks a little bit about your background, because when you were on the school board, I remember that year, it was 2020, and I was running for office, and there was a lot going on, and there was so much division. Mm-hmm. I remember there was a time that someone stepped down, and I figured, I'm like, oh no, this is gonna all fall apart. Mm-hmm. Everything's mm-hmm. gonna fall apart. And then I remember you ran to be on the board, mm-hmm. and then you end up being chairwoman, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So tell people a little bit about you and what that was like, maneuvering that whole Dr. Means situation, and how do you think it really prepared you for this one? Because that was, our community was divided. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was divided at that time.
I would say, next to parenting, right? Because parenting parenting has a way of humbling you and teaching you some things that I just feel like, other things and experiences can't teach you. But I did not realize that experience was necessary to shape and mold me into the leader that I needed to be. Mm. In fact, during that time, when I was approached to possibly be the board chair, my first answer was like, yeah, no, that's not what I signed up for. That is not anywhere on my radar. And no, just no. And after being prayerful about it, speaking with my husband about it, and really taking some time to consider, I still was not at a yes, but it was a maybe. And that turned into a yes. I had no idea what I was walking into. I could sense the dynamics of the board, mm-hmm. But I had no idea what it would take to navigate that space. And for a long time, I think of the times that I've had sleepless nights, other than working with students. That was a time that I've had really sleepless nights. Not because there was not a solution, but sometimes when we are broken, mm-hmm. and when we are hurt, and when there is a history, it's hard even for adults to be able to work through that pain. And that is where I found us. Just sort of difficult working through the dynamics of relationships so that we can then govern. And it became pretty difficult. And I try to be a person where if I can see a snippet of where we might be going, and if it seems like we're going to go off the rails, then I'm going to try to opt towards repair, because I understand that it's not about me, it's not about you, but it's about the goal, focusing on the goal, which first is effective governance. And in order to get there, we have to do some work, some personal work, you know. And so it was very difficult. It was difficult because, in your words, the community was split. The community was split. It was a very painful time. I think it's within my rights to say a painful time for the African American community.
Yeah.
And I think that may have been sort of exacerbated some by the non-African American community. And I think it just brought up a lot of past, quite frankly, just past issues that had not been resolved.
That probably needed to be addressed and to be brought up.
That's right.
And confronted at the end. That's what it seemed like.
That's right. And so it was hard. But I learned, like, on the other side of that I can do hard things. And not just me, but I mean, it was not just me. It was a collective board effort. And I think once we were able to sort of see ourselves and see each other first, and build a mutual respect, then you can ask for hard things. And then you can do the governing work. It does not mean that you're always going to agree, but it certainly helps you move one small step at a time towards resolution. And at some point, that had to be the goal, to repair the relationships and not to lose accreditation.
In addition to being on a school board, tell them your professional background so people get to know, hey, I'm a woman with a degree out here, It's Dr. Lakiesha Gantt. Okay, so just give them a little bit of your background.
Yeah, so I am a licensed psychologist by training. I earned my PhD at the University of Georgia, and my master's in, I think it was like community and counseling from the University of Georgia, and my bachelor's from Mercer University. I graduated from Clark Central High School. And also went to Oglethorpe Elementary School, 1 year Clark Middle, I think that was it. And then maybe the next 2 years BHL, because there was some rezoning. And so a good part of my professional life has been spent working either with individuals across the developmental spectrum and with a variety of different presenting concerns. And a good bit of that has been either with individuals or with systems, and working on ways to impact systems and processes. So specifically in Clark County, now it seems like way back when. Yes, I guess it's been over 10 years ago. I worked as a behavior specialist and developed an interest in discipline disparities, which just sort of matched my other interests of disparities in our community along a lot of different lines. But that gave me an opportunity to really delve into the work and work not just with students, but with systems and with adults.
Yeah.
And with administrators, all of the people that can truly change the trajectory for a child and then a family.
Yeah. Okay, so how would you, as mayor of Athens, Clark County, there's top issues that people are talking about, and housing is one of them. It is a top issue dealing with this housing crisis. What would be your approach to addressing that issue, and what type of funding or budget do you propose? Because some people are saying there's not enough money. What do you propose?
Well, so when we look at budgets, the reality is there's never enough money, truly. And so I think if we go in, obviously we have to say there's not enough money, but like, how would we dream this? Like what first you have to start with your aspirations. Like what is it that we want for Clark County? I will say that there are areas that I would love to explore more. One is affordable housing. And by affordable housing, I think we need to operationally define what we mean.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because that word is thrown around. You have, the government definition, maybe, but what is affordable housing from your lens?
To me, it consists of a couple of things. One is actually having a family having the ability to live in a home and still have money left. And I know that sounds so basic, like something left, right? And then secondly, there is another element that I think is often overlooked, and that's not just families being able to live in a home and be able to afford the bills, like either the mortgage or rent, but also I believe that we have a good bit or enough of like our elderly population that are being taxed out of their homes.
Yeah.
And so I sort of see this as a twofold, actually multifold, but those areas to me are important. Now, how do we get there? I think that we are going to have to explore like parameters that exist. So what are our ordinances? Like what are the parameters that prevent people from living in a space that they can afford? Is it the size of the home? Okay. Is there like an appetite for smaller homes? Is there an appetite for some private or partnerships with organizations? I don't know that would be private, but with some of our nonprofit or public service organizations to actually build affordable housing. I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with sort of this idea of like build it and they will like build 800 units and make 50 of them affordable. I don't think anything inherently is wrong with that, but I don't think we can stop there. And so I really want to explore our partnerships with our organizations. We have Housing Authority. We have a couple of other organizations that have been out here doing really good work, who have had ideas for housing. Now, it might not be like this huge, millions and millions and millions of dollars, and it may not bring in a lot of money, but I think we do have to turn our attention to neighborhoods that are affordable, not 20 homes, but neighborhoods.
Okay.
And figuring out what might that look like. Maybe they may be smaller. Maybe it could be partnering with local nonprofits, maybe individuals who are doing community work that already have the land, and maybe they need some type of incentives or partnership or help with infrastructure to actually build those homes. I think the ideas are there. I think that the openness has to be there, but I don't think we get there with like 20 homes at a time.
But what do you think about those type of solution, manufactured homes, tiny homes, and funding?
I actually think manufactured homes and tiny homes are a great idea. I think part of it is securing the land. And I think that is where we have to get creative with the partnerships that we have. The way I look at Athens Housing Authority is that they should be a partner, right, when it comes to helping secure funding, but also helping build some of the infrastructure. Like we can't just be at a point where we're like, the Housing Authority's job is done. The thing that's left is for them to manage the neighborhoods. And I don't mean to speak for them, but what I'm saying is I think it's going to take multiple collaborations when it comes to funding, figuring out what can the county be responsible for. Are there maybe other options out there? with other tax options, other sort of floating options for taxes, and to what degree might the county, if possible, be able to contribute. But I think we have to actually go in and not depending on developers to actually solve the full problem. Developers aren't in the affordable housing business.
They're in the profit making business.
Right, and I'm not mad, but what I'm saying is, like, I think it's a bit of a, I think it's a bit sort of unusual to expect a developer to solve or significantly take steps forward with affordable housing, unless there are other incentives for them in other places, which perhaps, could be on the table as well. But I think at some point we are going to have to look at the role of, like, housing and public housing. And this is not to say that, we want places where it's concentrated poverty, all the things that people tend to think about when there is a certain amount of subsidized or a housing in one place. But we also know that those neighborhoods and people and communities and families, they create communities.
Okay, so the next big hot topic that they have in Athens, Clarke County is immigration. This whole thing after Lakeland Riley. Unfortunately, she lost her life, but it sparked a whole, even more division, I would say, in Athens, and targeting Athens in a way that I don't necessarily agree with, but that's just my opinion. Maybe I shouldn't have put my opinion out there, y'all. It's okay. But what are your approach to addressing some of the issues that's going on with immigration and some people that's living here in fear? What would you have done when that Lakeland Riley issue occurred? Like, how would you have approached it? Because, honey,
let me just say, I will say this from having been an elected official, and I don't even put myself in the position of Mayor Gantt or any of our commissioners during that time. But there was a lot of vitriol. There was a lot of toxicity. And it's unfortunate because while many situations, most of them, maybe all, have political implications, that was just it opened the door, I believe, for Athens to sort of be on the front porch, right, with everyone looking. I think first I should say, anytime a person is murdered, I don't think people even, I don't think that we can even put ourselves in that situation of the parents, unfortunately, until you've been in the situation. So there's that. And this political element then that started very, very soon. I mean, very soon. I think that it put not just elected officials in peculiar situations, but also our immigrant communities. And since then, that fear has continued to build because we live in a culture where the sort of the national political climate, I believe, is like impacting even state governments, communities, local governments, and communities. And so, to answer your question, I don't know what I would have done. I would like to think that I would have been able to acknowledge, to the degree that I can, the loss and pain, and the grief, and then at the same time reaffirm our community, not just with our our families, but our students. We have children that are impacted by things like this. Reaffirm and reassure those families that they are a part of our community. There is no solving some of the problems that we have without working together. And we can villainize people, or during their time of like pain and fear, we can like reassure them that we are here.
Yeah, there's support out here. Yeah.
And our silence sometimes is it makes us complicit. And I don't pretend to put myself in a position where our families, our immigrant families, are what they have felt. But I do know during times where I've wanted someone to stand up for me, it's been so helpful when someone has came and stood alongside me and said, hey, I got your back. I don't know what I can do. You tell me what I can do. So the third thing I hope I would have done is reached out to our families and listen and ask, what is it that you need to feel safe? And sure, the larger community as well. But I don't think you just forget people when the fire gets hot. And there's a way to handle a lot of different realities. There's a way to say this is unacceptable. Murdering someone is unacceptable. And there's a deep loss that we may never be able to even wrap our minds around. And it's not okay to profile. It's not okay to hate people because they are immigrants. And what can we do? There's a way we can hold all of these things.
Yeah.
But the easiest is oftentimes just sort of
divide and hate and pointing fingers and blaming. And the next question I want to ask is about our local policing and Peace Corps. So, we have the public civilian oversight. What do you think about that infrastructure? And what do you think about the current policing? Because people have spoken about the racial profiling, the stop and frisk, and it just seems like there's an increase in certain ways. And then other people are saying, great job.
So I think that the oversight board, I think you have to look at intent and impact with anything that we're doing, right? If the intent is accountability, ultimately not just accountability, but to impact change, how is it doing that? I think that in an organization, when there is a commitment to things like transparency, to reducing disparities, right? The number of people that we're stopping and pulling over for frivolous things. When there are goals related to that, I feel like regardless of if the oversight board is whoever's on it, when there is a culture and a climate where that's the goal, and I believe that leadership sets that goal. And so I think if you have a board, and let's just say that board has more teeth to it, right? It might mean something with accountability and change. There still may be a tug, because if there is not a priority of reducing disparities and reducing how bias influences our practices, you're sort of what we call, you're just complying, right? But it's not taking root. And so I would like to see, yes, some more accountability, but also more discussions on how do we allow this to impact the true climate and culture of the police department. What does it mean, right? Not just as we actually resolve a case, But what are some of the operationally defined? What are these issues and what are the goals? How do we get there? Because if it's just accountability, then after the case is done, and then after that case is done, and after that case is done, it's something in that system is still like it's producing cases for us to review. And I can tell you with some, not all, but I've spoken with people. I don't want to violate, but I've spoken with individuals who have had negative encounters with the police. And you can't just have an attitude that we didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
It has to be, I believe that has to be a part of the climate and the goal that is set in that organization so that the two can actually work together. They may not always be on the same page, but they could at least be working towards the same goal, maybe in different ways. And so I don't pretend to be an expert on those, but I have not gotten the sense that that's the case, that the entities are working together for a variety of different reasons. But I also believe that there is no field, there's no discipline that is beyond critique.
Right. No field.
It's just detective.
Where somebody never
police.
do anything wrong, no matter what. It's like no matter who files a complaint. I'm just like after 10 years of doing this work, no matter how many complaints have been filed, it's always some way that they have been found to not have broken any rules, and I just don't understand that. And I was like, I would have more trust and want to engage more with, the police, with building community, because they are a part of the community.
Sure.
But it's like, how can you never be wrong for anything, but we can be wrong? We can be wrong for something.
Can I add something that I thought about while we were talking about housing, but then as quick as I thought about it, and it's because it's not a guarantee, but I'm very interested in exploring pilot options for some of the things that we've talked, like helping individuals, particularly people that have been taxed out, stay in their homes.
Expand when you say pilot.
So payment in lieu of taxes.
Okay.
But and that is that's delicate work, but it's work I think that is worth doing. It's not guaranteed, but I believe that there's something there to explore. And so, as we as a community operationally define, like, this is what we mean, I think it's okay to ask people and organizations for help, and not just for help. It's not a help, but it is like, join us. You're part of this community. You don't pay taxes, right? You are a significant part of this community. So what else can you do beyond being a large employer?
Yeah, because I was like, when I found out that you didn't say the name, but I'm going to say the name. When I found out that UGA didn't pay any taxes, I'm like, how does this work? Yes, they are the largest employer, but also every single year, which other schools should definitely implement this, the alumni, they donate back so much money. They're like, we got $1 million or $1 billion in donations, and we're not paying any taxes on top of that.
I mean, I just think sometimes you have to ask for things, and if the answer is no, you have to keep asking. But how is it that you can't identify a problem, and then an organization or organizations say, well, you never even asked. Right? Doesn't mean that it equates to what but we gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. Right now, I would say, like, the commission, it is divided. at times. It can be so fiery. I'm just like, how can we count on y'all to come up with solutions for us if y'all can't even get along?
Yeah.
You know, and so how should someone be able to bring the commission together?
Honestly, I think that's a significant part of the job. The first, the first several months is figuring out how do we shift the culture. Government, like things that go through local, any type of governing body, they already take a long time. They're natural. I mean, even with the healthiest of dynamics, when you add, some disjointedness to it, it just slows it down even more. It can become, because we're human, it can become very personal, which then can become about sort of me and you as not get
a community,
which then means people that are most silenced and unheard, they are probably the ones that lose out the most, right? Because sometimes we just want to show people that, one, we're human, but see, I'm doing my job. And oftentimes it's the people that are showing up with the, either with the platforms or the power. And so it just starts this cycle. But I do think the focus among, different areas of focus has to be working to sort of build a healthy core. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that. I think, people are healthy and things like that. But with large governing bodies, you have to have a healthy core so that core can almost stand, as sort of prevent the whole body from going one way or another. Sometimes when you're facilitating meetings, sometimes you have to be the person that says, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And that's a very uncomfortable place to be. The most important thing, I think, for someone who facilitates meetings like that is to work on, obviously, building relationships, but also introspection. Mm-hmm. How do I do this better the next time? Okay, what did I do right or good to keep us focused? And what do I need to do better the next time? And if part of what I need to do better the next time is having some conversations with my colleagues and saying, hey, okay, we got to figure this out together, right? Like we can't argue, in public meetings. So. But it's hard, I've been there myself. I get passionate about something and it's like, I'm trying to reel myself back in and it's like, oh gosh.
You can hear yourself out there. You feel like, oh.
I can hear my other self saying, calm down. Come back over here. You're in a public meeting,
Yeah.
But
yeah. So you can tell me your stance on the resolution and how you think that we can close some of those gaps and continue to address some of those issues, especially around the Black and minority businesses, because there's still nothing that has really been done.
So with the minority business piece, I'm proud to say that we've taken steps with Clark County School District. We're not where we need to be, but we've taken significant strides and efforts. I would like the county, and I know that they are joining us on some things like with workshops on doing business with these different places. We need more of those, but first we have to use the report as our guiding, what is our target?
Ding, 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 ding. I just don't understand. They spent a lot of money on the report.
Yeah,
Why not take the advice that's in the report?
So I think that we have to go back to those, the findings. We then have to say, where do we start? All right, what is our goal? Okay, what are we trying to meet? And then what are going to be the indicators that we're there in 5 years, in 10, in 15, and 20? And I think we have to go back and look at the numbers, right? You don't just do things and not have some type of goal in mind. You say, okay, minority businesses, not just we have that at why are you not doing business, but you figure out what are those, what are your intervening plans? Is it because they don't know how to do business? Well, that would cover then the workshop. I think some of it is actually figuring out how to formalize their business structure. With, you know, when you run a small business, you are everything.
Everything.
You're the accountant,
marketing.
You're the marketing director,
the counselor.
You're the counselor. You're the business consultant,
the secretary.
the secretary. You're like, I mean, you're the attorney. I mean, it's all of these different things. You are the designer for your building. I mean, all these different things. So. First, we have to go back to the report and set goals based on that report. Don't just start doing stuff just to say we're doing it. That's great. But like pull some goals down and then create a long-term plan. Where is it that we want to be? And how are we going to get there based on the feedback we have? But literally, there is a need to have a person to support a person from concept to actually doing business, to then doing business with Clark County. Because if you don't have like your business infrastructure,
right,
and if you're all the things, like, and people are starting to say, well, you need an LLC, okay, you need insurance. What in the world? So I got to spend 8 hours figuring out what do they mean by insurance? How do I do an LLC? But then I'm also running my business, you know, my painting business. That's too much. So we need something as a part of our government to literally, I really mean almost like a, you know, in mental health terms, we think like a case manager. But we need a person, a body that says, okay, so you have this idea. What are you doing so far? But even with the process, we need a person.
That's making sure.
We need a person that they are overseeing that. And then as offices exist, they are the person. They are the liaison. So that's one thing. That's a few different things. Look at the report. Set goals. It's a multi-year plan. We did not get here in 10 years. It's going to take us a long time, but we can have like an extended plan and say, this is where we want to be. And these are the 3 things we're going to do to get there. And we're going to assess where we are in 5 years. And we're going to see how did we grow? What do we need to sort of change a little? And then we're going to keep going. So that's one thing. 2, this is if I could wave a magic wand, I would love to see a physical space with small businesses, like almost like a shared collective.
Yeah, that's the dream of many. I won't say many. That's one of my dreams, and I know there's others out there that would love to see that happen.
Yeah,
but how?
Like, although I have some critiques of SPLOST. I mean, I really do have some critiques, but how might we use, you know, any type of local tax because they can fund capital projects. And so how is there a way that we can do that for our small businesses? I think that there is. I think we have to set that as a goal.
Yeah. So you're definitely saying some more of the SPLOST money should be implemented in.
I think so. I think we need to explore that. I mean, I'm not saying 100%, but here's what we know. You can have 10 projects. And then before you know it, it's time for another SPLOST. And only a few of the projects have gotten done or started. Then you're voting on aspirations, right? And we because some of them, you know, they're going to linger on. So we need to figure out how to pare down that list and how much of it can go to support just basic infrastructure. You know, and going back to the people, again, sometimes you have to do things for the good of the community that may not vote for SPLOST.
Yeah.
You know, it can't just be like, this is for the people who have the large platform. I'm not saying there's not a place for that, but I'm saying we got to prioritize. Yeah.
How do you solve communities that either their water is getting shut off or they're not getting proper access to water?
Yeah.
In this time and age.
I will say I think we need to come to the table with the Pinewood community stakeholders, those that are trusted advocates, for the community, and figure out, explore literally all of our options, right? Because there are some areas that have, like, not in that community, but like right down the street. So again, this goes back to, well, we can't really stop developers from coming here and building up, but what are we asking? How do we help build infrastructure? And so I think part of it is figuring out, what are we asking of our developers, right? Can't stop them and say you can't come here. I mean, I think, at some point we have to look at, we have to push pause with development. So that's sort of a separate thing. What are our areas that we can push pause in? Might it be like with particular like zoning request changes, waivers, where does our power lie?
Not everywhere, not totally, but where and what areas.
Yeah, because saying, okay, we're gonna do we're gonna stop, do a moratorium on build. I mean, I would love it, but then you still have places that can build certain things by right.
Right.
So I think that we have to figure out, what are we asking people, and I've never felt that we've done that to as much as we can. What are we asking businesses when they come here? It's not enough to create jobs. That's wonderful. Are we asking that a percentage of your a percentage of your staff, that they are Athens based? Are we asking that that you have policy that is supportive for our families to be supportive of their children? Are we asking for any type of buy-in with childcare? If you're getting all of these things from us, are we asking for infrastructure? You're going to be near 2 neighborhoods, and we would love to be able to expand, fill in the blank. How can we work together? So there's that. But then also us looking at, how do we build infrastructure in our own city? Because it's not solely a developer's responsibility. It's not a small business's responsibility to say, okay, I'm gonna build infrastructure. I'm gonna do me a little sidewalk here. I want to, no, that's the county's responsibility to figure out, how do we get clean water to people, and how do we get uncontaminated water? Those are issues of basic need.
That shouldn't even be a topic. Like, I'm just surprised that is even an issue that we're dealing with in Athens County. I don't hear about it or know about it. Support Pinehoods. Do some research online. There's a petition circulating that you can sign to show your support. Okay, so we're going to play a little Know Your Rights game, guys. This is about the wrap-up of the interview. We've had a long day. I'm hoping that I can have a public roundtable discussion where you all can be a part of it. But now I'm going to wrap it up by asking some fun questions. All right, so the question is, for someone that is under the age of 17, can they be interrogated by school resource officers or law enforcement officers without their parents present?
We actually just talked about this policy, and they can. They should not be able to.
That's what I'll be advocating for. That's what I'll be. These are the policies, the end of school to prison pipeline. These are the simple stuff. I'm like, before I strongly believe, if a child breaks a law on school property, their parents should be contacted before they are interrogated, and they go down this rabbit hole, because anything you say can be held against you.
Yep. And some of what's said, like, if you, either our last board meeting or the one before that, you'll see that I inquired again about that policy, because it came up in one of our retreats. And sometimes people might say, well, it's because if it's a school safety matter. I don't think that that's been the case often. Does that make sense? So we don't have a situation where that's the case all the time, to my knowledge. And so we want to be sure we're not crafting a whole policy, or we're not keeping a whole policy that is around a hypothetical.
Yeah, there's a lot of hypotheticals, because Okay, so traditionally, even if there's a school fight, because I'm an educator too, I've been in the school system. So some people be like, "But you don't know what you're talking about." I've been in the schools, and them kids is off the chain. Okay, but even if a child is detained, they still do not have to be interrogated. Even if they're detained for safety measures, they still do not have to be interrogated without their parents because technically they're still a minor.
Yep. And if you think about what happens during an interrogation,
Intimidation.
or investigate,
Yeah.
it's you're
Sometimes kids lie, they don't tell the truth
Yeah.
because they're afraid or they feel intimidated, therefore they say things that are not fully accurate.
and there's a lot of pressure, that a child will experience, and so it creates to me an unideal situation for that child. It also, in this strange way, mimics a criminal investigation. So it starts to parallel. There are a lot of ways that the discipline process parallels the criminal, like navigating the criminal justice process, and that is one of them.
Yeah. Do you have the right to remain silent if you are younger than 18 and being interrogated by an officer? Do you still have that right?
Yes.
Okay, correct. Ding, ding, ding. You still have the right to remain silent. Remember that. And it's so important that parents sit down with their children. As you hear us talk about this, sit down with your kids and I tell them when I'm doing like these in the school to prison pipeline session, create a plan. Go over it at a school code of conduct because things are in there that you might not know that can cause your child to be dealing with the police.
It's a lot. I mean, now compared to other districts in the state of Georgia, if you look at a lot of their codes of conduct, it's hit or miss. But it's a lot, and it's important for children to know that, and for kids and teenagers to know that, because there is so much pressure created in that room when you have an authority figure, asking you questions. There are a lot of factors that can create duress, like in the child or the person, and then extra pressure, and so which then creates not just issues for the child, but again issues for the family, and then just all of these different
chain
things.
reaction. On that note, I know we've had a great interview. We've been here for quite some time, so tell people where they can find you. Is there anything last notes or anything you would like to tell people, because I think it's even getting dark outside.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've been talking too much and rambling a little bit. We just ask that I ask that you join our movement, our campaign. One of the things I like to share, and it's so important, and I know that maybe my campaign team may look and say, "Don't say that." I said this during my last campaign. But the campaign has several goals. Obviously, it is to be elected mayor. It's also to get people engaged who feel unheard and are not engaged in the governance and the direction of their city. And then thirdly is to create policies or proposals or ideas to be able to build those out so that regardless of who's in that seat, communities are equipped to do the work, to start doing some of the work before we get there, but also to pick up and say, okay, well, we know that the behavioral health unit under Community Uplift, like this is something that needs to be explored. We might need maybe we need more funding, right? There's no one there to talk to about mental health after these hours. Or wages. These are, this is the reality of our county employees and colleagues. We're going to pick this up, and this is what I can go before my mayor and commission and work on. So it is to also equip people after they get engaged to actually move that work forward.
Teach them how to fish.
Yeah.
That's what we talking about.
There's this educational piece. So the campaign has about a few goals, about 3 goals.
Okay.
And we invite you to join us.
Where can they find you? Where's your website handle, social media, also whatever, wherever they can find you?
Lakiesha for Athens.com. It gives you everything you need to it has all of the information, how to volunteer, how to donate, and just how to join us.
Okay, well, thank you for joining me for this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I want to do this again, y'all. I'm gonna have a roundtable discussion with all the candidates. Hopefully, if they agree, I can say this. But thank you for joining me,
thank
and
you.
good luck on the mayoral race.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.